Hello, this is Neil, the art instructor at masterpaintingnow.com. The link is in the description below the video if you want to check out more free tutorials. In this particular lesson, I'm going to show you how to paint an eye. Now, there's two different ways you can go about painting. You can either do some sort of undersketch or not do an undersketch. You can do like a kind of sketch with your painting. There are different approaches. But let's say we want to kind of start out with something to like a head type thing. So I start with the typical. Let's see, I'm trying to get black here. Sorry about that. Like a circle. It's basically, it follows the perfect square method. Um, and I'm not going to really just explain the dividing lines because I'm showing how to paint an eye and not really how to do your proper proportions for a face. And I'm using more kind of a cartoon style for my face here. So the style doesn't matter so much as how you come about, how you get to your final stage of the painting of your eyes. So we can do realistic, it doesn't really matter. The painting is still going to be the same when you do your eyes. So this is just a quick way I sketch in my faces. Then I come in and now I decide, okay, what kind of nose they're going to have, what kind of mouth they're going to have, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to give, basic, quick nose here. And keeping them shorter. And then we do the part between the eyes. This is just a quick sketch here. Now, when we get into the actual painting of the eye, again, there's different ways you can go about doing it. You can either follow the sketch of the eye you have, or you can more like paint it. But what I'm going to show you is start big and work small. I find that to be the best way to paint, and I think you will too after you see this demonstration here. So starting big, you start with big brushes. And notice my brush here, it doesn't have shape dynamics on it. It only has pressure. So that is when you go to the brush settings, I think are here. Notice under transfer, I used to be called opacity. Under the transfer or the opacity of the brush, I have the opacity jitter set, not set at all, but notice it's set to pin pressure. Now you need a pen tablet to do this to paint. I'm not using a mouse, I'm using a drawing tablet. So you can get something like a Bamboo. It's something cheap to start out with. It's only like 98 bucks and it works great. That's the brand I personally recommend is Wacom or Wacom, depends on, I think it's pronounced Wacom. Anyway, make sure that's all you have that's all you have set is transfer. Don't do shape dynamics because it's very difficult to paint that way. Just take this brush and reduce it in size as you go along, and then add a brush with tapering ability to add your final details if you want to. You can literally get away with doing it all with this kind of brush though. Just set it all the way down to like size 3 brush, for example. Just make sure you have the opacity set. Notice up here I have opacity on as well and flow at 100%. That's how I personally work. So you can start by going, okay, let's just paint in this whole socket because the whole socket's going to be dark. And this is more of the Painterly method where you can start a painting. And then you'd have some sort of tone down for the skin. You might know the sides are going to be a little bit darker, so you'll paint them darker. Let's say it's going to be like the light's going to be dominant. Oops, I just flung my thing to the other screen. Let's say it's going to be the light is going to be dominant on the right hand side, but it's going to be coming from above. And so you just kind of block in the major colors, and then from here it's all about just kind of working. And I know this is mainly about painting the eye, but I want to kind of give the eye somewhere to rest, so I'm trying to just do a quick structure here so we have something to work with. Now at this point I start reducing my brush size so I can get more details in, and that's all I'm doing. Right, so now when I come in I paint the eye. Also, I'm going to paint the right eye. I know that I'm going to have a little bit of light and it's going to be receiving the top here. Now keep in mind this is how to paint an eye and not how to draw an eye. Right, so I'm not going to show the structure of the eye and all that. That I already have videos on that. So this right here, this brush is, notice the shape dynamics and the transfer is set to this brush, and this is the brush I'll use when I want to get specific details in there. But again, I could just stick to using this brush and reduce its size, and if I need to get the particular brush size, I can just hit 5 on my keyboard and that gives me the brush size I need. On both sides there's a little bit of shadow around the indent of the eye there. Since the light is dominant from the right hand side, I'm going to kind of put in the basic shape of the eye here. then that means that the light is going to hit this top lid mostly from the right hand side, and as it comes over to this side, it's going to get more shadow. And to further show that illusion though, there's going to be the nose has a bridge right here on the side, and although it's darker than the middle of the nose, still there's going to be some bounce light happening off the nose and off the cheek area. That's going to bounce back into this area right here, and it's going to light up that area just a little bit. Finally, this all here is going to be pretty dark no matter what type of lighting we have going on. This right here is mostly always dark, and it usually will kind of come around that little area there, and it'll bleed down into the bottom part of the lid, bottom part of the nose. I'm just going to kind of blend it in like that. This whole bottom part, keep in mind there's a bottom lid here, so you have a three-dimensional structure here, and I want to show that three-dimensional structure. I'm just doing a loose painting here, so I'm not trying to get too detailed with it. I'm keeping everything loose, but this is important because if you can paint something that has form and structure and looks like what you want it to look like, then you know you've done your job right. That is, without any detail yet, if it looks like something that you expect it to look like, it looks like a face, it looks like an eye, then you know that you've got the form down right. And that's how to know you got the form down right, is paint it to where there's really no detail, where it's just the very basic shapes are there. And if it looks like what you intend it to look like with just the basic shapes, then you know that the end result's going to look right when you add the detail. If it doesn't look right with just the basic shapes in there, then the chances are, unless you fix it and alter it as you're going, something's wrong. So fix it now while you're in this stage of the painting. Don't wait until after you're like, hey, something doesn't look right with my painting and I can't figure out what it is. Make sure you solve the problem early on. That is, when you're working out the form, solve the problem then. Don't wait until later on. There's going to be some light. Light always, tends to this fat of the eye up here. Pretty much no matter what lighting system you got going on, that part is going to be hit by light. I'm going to really turn down my groove. That's where the eye folds in. I can start adding a little bit of detail to this texture there. But still I'm keeping it very simple. Sticking to basic forms, big brushes. I'm not trying to get too detailed. And now I can go ahead and I can add in my eyeball and the light area. So I know that this outside area is going to be dark. Add some lashes. But the inside area is going to be light. So I'm going to go ahead and light up the inside now. It's not going to be like white light. It's going to be pretty much the same lightness as the area around it. That is, you have the brightest part of your cheek, let's say, in this area. That's pretty much whatever color that is, like whatever hue or brightness that is, that's going to be the brightness. I'm using that color to erase part of the face there. And I would actually come down with this more, and then come across. Say it's more of a younger person. Shave the sides of the head more. It should be more like this. So I'm just shaping the face, and that's one thing you do when you're painting versus drawing, is like you're adding and taking away shapes. I might give her a little bit of a bald cheek. And I know that this part of the lip is going to be lit up more. I know this is about painting of mainly about painting of the eye, but I thought I'd go ahead and, it looks weird when the eye is just sitting by itself, so I want to give it something to rest inside of. In this case, the face, where it belongs. I even get smaller, because I'm working quite small. This is a really small painted sketch. It's not intended to be big. That way I can work faster. Now what happens then is the light is going to hit this bottom lid. And this bottom lid is going to be lit up lighter. And then you're going to have your lashes that work off of that lid. Like this. Again, I'm keeping it very basic. I'm not getting very detailed. There's a little bit of shadow on the inside of the eye here. You have the darker part in here that's kind of a pinkish color, and that usually in black and white results in a little bit darker of a color. And then you have the eye. I'll have the eyeball kind of looking off to the right. It's just more interesting sometimes when instead of people looking straight ahead at you, you have them kind of looking off. It's more interesting. Paint the solid color of the eye first. There's a slightly darker outline to the eye. I'm not worried about details. I'm worried about the form of the eye. So the form of the eye, if you do it really quickly, right? So when you're drawing the retina pupil part, think about it and like the form of it, right? So that's the circle. So it has one kind of flat color. Then you have the pupil. Then kind of have the dark part coming around to the light part. Right, and you'll have the light part hitting here, and you'll have a bright spot here somewhere, and then maybe another bright spot over there, depending on the type of lighting, something like that. And that's how that's how you paint the eye in its basic form. And then you'd come in with smaller brushes, and you'd come in and you'd start adding a little bit of detail, like the little muscles around the pupil. You might be able to see some of those. They're not going to be as dark in the dark area, so you might want to use a softer dark color, or use all the same color going all the way around and then come back and darken it up, like take a soft brush maybe and take that dark color and come back in and darken up that side, because that side's not going to be as bright as this side over here. The muscles will look brighter on this side. I think about the eye as a three-dimensional object. You might have a couple little colors in there. You might want to, lighten up part of this eye more. I want to do with that kind of brush. If I was going to light up, maybe I'd use the dodge tool and just kind of light up that way. If you want to add that kind of lightness to it, more of like almost exposure. And you can also turn this to midtones and just get the midtones going. You can also take your regular brush, set it to like soft light or something, and then work in that soft light a little bit like that. Just kind of adding that. Then you go back to your regular normal brush and add in your normal colors here. And you can also take add a few dark specks into the light area. Make sure you add the dark ring around it. Anyway, so that would be adding in some of the details to the eye. And that would be the pupil part. So that's all you do for the pupil. That's like quick. You don't have to add a bunch of detail. You don't have to like go total realistic, because you got to think, how close are you to the eye? How much detail can you actually see? And so you got to consider that as well. If you make the eye like way too detailed, then it's not going to look as realistic, because naturally when you're I'm gonna add a bright highlight. Naturally when you're like close to an eye, you can see all kinds of detail. But if you're like, normal camera distance away when you take a picture of someone, and you're not like all zoomed in or anything, and you can kind of see like their upper, you basically see like this much of their body. This is their head, and then their neck and their shoulders. And let's say that's what's in frame of the picture you're taking. Their eyes are pretty small in that picture, and so you're not going to see like all the retina muscles and stuff like that. So don't, why paint all those details when they're not going to show up in the painting? Now this whole thing is quite dark, right? So I could take and lighten it up if I wanted to. And one easy way to do that is just go to adjustments. I can go to, like, for example, one thing I like to do is with variance. I think this is what I'm thinking of. If I want to add some sharpness, like more color to it, but I don't have any color added yet. But brightness and contrast is a quick way to add in, you can make the whole thing brighter. Add more contrast or less contrast, depending on how. In this case, I'm going to add like less contrast, and that's a good starting point. Now I can take this and I can start working it in. And you want to start with big brushes, and work in small brushes as you need more detail. So get the basic form down first, and only after you have the basic form down, Do you even want to start thinking about, adding details? Make sure the painting works on the basic level first. If it works on the basic level first, I mean, all you did was add form, and it doesn't take very long to add form to a painting. And if that works, then come in and go, okay, now I can come in you got that once the basic form is working, then you can decide to come in and start adding more details. But it's only after the basic form is working out great. And one way to tell if the basic form is working out is to zoom way out and see, can you still kind of tell what it is? Does it read well zoomed out? If it does, then the odds are that your form is working well. After the form is working well, then you come in and you start adding all the other details. And so that's the difference between painting an eye and drawing an eye. You might have some very quick guidelines for just measurements like I drew, very quick sketch, but for the most part you're painting the eye, you're not drawing it. And that's how you go about painting an eye. That's the very basics of it. You can add more realism to it if you want to. This is, I'm looking. This is all from mind. I'm not using any references or anything like that. But you can go. Okay, sometimes there's this piece of muscle that comes down here a little bit, and there might be sometimes there's more detail here. Texture, and you can start adding some of that skin texture. And then there's oftentimes a skin texture all in this area here. There's always skin texture in this area as well. And so you take that lighter color and you add it into the dark, and you take some of that darker color, add it into the light, and just add little dots. You can also use skin texture brushes to save time on doing this. So you don't have to feel like you're drawing so much texture by hand. You can just kind of wipe your pencil across and you get some texture. And I might have overdone that. Then obviously I want to come back in. I want to add some individual hairs, a little bit more detail for the eyebrows. There's going to be some parts that are less dark, and the parts that are more dark. There's individual hairs, and I'd have to make this a bigger picture to really come in to see all that. But you get the idea. So that's it. Hopefully this video is helpful. And hey, do me a favor, if you found this video helpful, one thing you can do to help me and help others, because it's all about helping people. That's what this channel is all about. It's about giving a bunch of free resources, valuable resources to artists, so that, like starving artists, people that can't afford to pay much because they're going through college or whatever, they're still high school students, but they want to learn how to be a good artist because they want to be a graphic designer when they grow up, or they want to be a comic book artist, or they want to be a conceptual artist for video games and movies, or whatever. Maybe they want to be a what's that called when you do screen backgrounds for movies and shit? A matte painter. Maybe they want to be a matte painter anyway. So these are free resources. Please spread them around so that other people can learn from them as well. And all you have to do is click the share button right there below the video. And that gives you tons of options of where you can share it. You can just pick the ones you already have. Let's say you have a Twitter account and a Facebook account. Click those two icons and it automatically shares this video with your people. And that way they can learn from it. Because you'd be surprised how many people might learn from something. You can show them and go, hey, check this out. And you might be surprised how many people on that thing might thank you for it. Go, oh, thank you so much. I've been looking for something like this forever. So I'd really appreciate that if you just click that share button and share on your networks. That way other people can benefit from it. Let's try to help as many people as we can, particularly artists. All right, thank you very much for watching this video. And also if you want to go ahead and comment and subscribe, feel free. By subscribing, you'll know when I post new videos. That I try to post them on a pretty regular basis. I guess one other thing as closing comments, if you have any recommendations what you want to see on the channel, some type of tutorial you want to see or something, just let me know. I appreciate it. and I'll try to get to it.